I think the great thing about tourism and travel is that it allows people to travel and experience different cultures and realize that we're all, essentially the same. We all want the same things. We all want a roof over our head. We all want food. We need to look after our kids. And everybody at the end of the day is the same. And the world seems to have got sort of a little bit divided at the moment. If you look at global politics, whether you're between countries or within countries, it's very sort of confrontational, and there's too many sort of sound bites that, shall we say, don't really tell the whole story and paint very one-sided pictures. And really, at the end of the day, people are all the same, and they all have the same needs, the same wants, the same desires. And I think tourism and travel is really the way that it helps us understand that those people on the other side of the world that may be painted a particular way in a news report are just the same as we are. And I think that, with COVID, with the pandemic, everybody got, back into silos. Everybody lived in their room. Everybody did everything through a sort of screen. And I think tourism just allows us to sort of reconnect and really understand that, we're all the same. We all have the same needs, wants. I think tourism is really powerful in that regard. But I think also when you look at Sri Lanka then had shall we say, an extra year. I mean, it had the problems last year. And again, actually, when you looked at the problems last year, for anybody who was visiting Sri Lanka, it was still much safer than probably where they lived at home. But that wasn't portrayed in the press and in the media. And again, I think that's one of the things that tourism does. It just gives us perspectives. But also, increasingly, tourism is important to global economies. And if you look at Sri Lanka, I think it's one of the 3 biggest earners of exchange. It probably employs or provides livelihoods for something like 10% of the population, over 2 million people. And so it's very important. But I think, one of the wonderful things about Sri Lanka is the fact that when people come here, they really connect. Sri Lankans are interested. They converse with people. Many of the hotels are relatively small. Even the big hotel chains, the hotels are limited in size. So you'll find that person on the front desk or the person who looks after your room or the person in the restaurant, after a couple of hours, they recognize who you are and they interact. And it's such a human destination in that sense. So I think that's why people who come here, want to come back. I think I've lived now in 13 or 14 different countries around the world, and I've worked in some iconic tourism destinations. I don't think I've ever had anywhere where so many people have come up to me and said, the greatest holiday we ever had, the best holiday we ever had was in Sri Lanka. And I think that's all about people, and it's all about connection, and that's what Sri Lanka does so very well. I think the other thing, that Sri Lanka is really important is that, we've got this whole dialogue now about, the planet, about global warming, about biodiversity. And I think that Sri Lanka is just also a wonderful destination to visit to help us realize, what this world has to offer. It's not just about sort of beaches, but if you look here, the biodiversity, we've got the biggest land mammals, we've got the biggest sea mammals, we've got a huge amount of seagrass, we've got mangrove swamps, it's green, we've got huge diversity, different ecosystems. And I think if you come here, even without trying, you just sort of understand what this world is that we have all inherited. And we need to make sure stays pristine and we look after for the future. So, on so many levels, I think, tourism is beneficial to all of us, to connect with the world. It's particularly relevant to Sri Lanka because it employs so many people, and Sri Lanka embodies, the best in terms of the way that we communicate with people, connect with people who come, and it reminds us of, what this world is about and what we need to keep for future generations.